J.D. Vance went on Fox News at 9:30 Saturday morning and told the American public the Strait of Hormuz was open, and when the people who were not getting their Middle East coverage from a Chiron started pushing back, he reached into his pocket and pulled out 17 million barrels of oil that had allegedly moved through the strait in the last 24 hours, which is the kind of evidence that sounds airtight until you remember the IRGC was on radio at that same moment telling ship captains the waterway was closed, and anyone who disagreed was welcome to test that theory, which means Vance knew exactly what Iran was doing to that waterway, saw the closure developing in real time, and decided the correct propaganda move was to go find a barrel count and read it on television. Meanwhile, the people whose job actually requires them to know, the tanker captains rerouting through Omani waters Saturday morning to keep their crews alive, are getting their intelligence from Israel and Iran because those are the two parties whose decisions govern whether you make it home, and the consequences of trusting the wrong broadcast are not a bad news cycle. The MOU between the United States and Iran was signed Wednesday night, June 17th, at Versailles, where Trump sat at a table, signed a paper copy, handed the pen to Marco Rubio, and received applause from the assembled guests, while Iran received a transmitted copy from several time zones away, meaning the other party to the agreement was watching the ceremony from a different continent, a detail the White House apparently decided was a logistical footnote rather than a conceptual problem, and everyone in the room clapped anyway because that is what you do at Versailles when the paperwork is moving and the cameras are on. The only signature that has ever mattered in any arrangement involving Iran and military operations in the Middle East belongs to Israel, and Israel was not in the room. And before you say nobody asked them, Israel knew exactly what was in that document, chose not to sign it on purpose, and the reason is straightforward. Signing would have made them a legal party to the Lebanon clause and every operational restriction Iran demanded. So they took the benefit of Iran standing down and declined the handcuffs that came with the paper. And Trump sending them a copy afterward is the diplomatic equivalent of forwarding the memo to the person who wrote the memo, which is the kind of move that makes sense if you want to lie and make everyone believe you are the one running the meeting when Trump and Americans are actually the subservient sugar daddy sacrificing lives and money to do Israel's bidding, nothing more. Tell me, what was so bad for Israel about this document they walked away from? They got Iran's missiles grounded, Lebanon exposed and available for their demonic operations, which include attacking innocent, famous female Lebanese sea turtle conservationists, believe it or not, causing burns and injuries to over 70% of their body. The deal they supposedly hate got the Iran nuclear clock paused, at least momentarily, and 0 lines of the ceasefire legally binding on a single Israeli soldier. Then, look at what Iran got for signing, which was the ability to charge $2 million per vessel through the Strait via the Persian Gulf Strait Authority they stood up in May. Trump denies this, but again, no one is dumb enough to listen to him right now after nothing Trump has said about this war has been accurate. Plus, the resumption of roughly 2 million barrels of oil per day in exports once the American naval blockade lifted, which is real money, but nowhere near the frozen asset release Vance confirmed on the record would not happen at signing, meaning both parties walked out of that ceremony understanding the paper was a pressure valve with a timer on it and behaved accordingly from the first hour. There is nothing in that deal that hurts Israel. The deal was never designed to outlast Israel's next operation in Lebanon, and the people in the media apparatus running cover for it were doing exactly what their track record says they do. And the man at the center of the television operation, J.D. Vance, managed to both deny and confirm the same financial arrangement in a single news cycle, telling ABC on June 15th that no money had been released and would not be, then telling CBS the same day that Iran could have access to a reconstruction pool funded by Gulf states if it complied, which means he spent one afternoon simultaneously killing the story and keeping it alive, and warned Israel they were burning through their last ally in Washington from a podium he has never once used to take a documented position on Israel, which is the most expensive podium in the world to be standing on when your credibility is the only thing the argument has going for it. Go find the tape of Trump on June 14th announcing he had personally authorized the Strait to open and ordered the naval blockade of Iranian ports to end. And then find the correction he issued 2 hours later, clarifying that the Strait would not actually open until the signing ceremony, which means he announced authority over a waterway his own government was still blockading and issued the correction before the first announcement had finished trending. The man declared a geopolitical victory and asterisked it inside the same news cycle, and 30 million people watched both statements, and the gap between them was not the lead story on a single network that evening because every network was busy covering a diplomatic drama instead. Netanyahu looked at the Lebanon clause, Iran's stated condition that Israel halt operations and respect Lebanese sovereignty, went on camera and announced the IDF would remain in Lebanon indefinitely and had zero intention of withdrawing from any position it currently occupied, which he said out loud while the people who brokered the agreement were still describing it as historic. Israel then spent the next 48 hours bombing southern Lebanon hard enough that by Saturday morning, June 20th, strikes had killed at least 16 people, including 2 children, and the IRGC closed the strait in response and warned every commercial vessel in the region to stay out or accept the consequences, while United States Central Command put out a statement that same morning counting 55 vessel crossings as proof the waterway was functioning. The American Military Command and the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps issuing directly contradictory dispatches about the same body of water at the same moment, which is the entire American foreign policy posture in this conflict rendered as a scheduling conflict. The press corps gave you 2 weeks of theater, fracturing alliances, scolding from Washington, Vance warning Jerusalem on behalf of an administration that was simultaneously supplying Jerusalem. And while every camera chased that narrative, Israel expanded its military footprint in Gaza, Lebanon, and Syria by over 1,000 square kilometers, used the MOU window to run operations Lebanon was supposed to be protected from, kept bombing after the window closed, and pulled the conditions Iran had set for the whole arrangement apart from the inside, which is how a country that never signed a deal dismantles one. Trump signed a deal with Iran and called it peace. The Switzerland follow-up talks got pushed from Friday to Sunday in Bergenstock before a single session happened, the Strait is closed, and the only broadcast describing that waterway accurately this morning came from an organization that answers to no American and reports to no podium. And that is who holds the decision in this conflict. It has always been who holds the decision. And the Versailles signing ceremony was a very expensive way to demonstrate it one more time. The press corps gave you 2 weeks of theater, fracturing alliances, scolding from Washington, Vance warning Jerusalem on behalf of an administration that was simultaneously supplying Jerusalem. And while every camera chased that narrative, Israel expanded its military footprint in Gaza, Lebanon, and Syria by over 1,000 square kilometers, used the MOU window to run operations Lebanon was supposed to be protected from, kept bombing after the window closed, and pulled the conditions Iran had set for the whole arrangement apart from the inside, which is how a country that never signed a deal dismantles one. Trump signed a deal with Iran and called it peace. The Switzerland follow-up talks got pushed from Friday to Sunday in Bergenstock before a single session happened, the Strait is closed, and the only broadcast describing that waterway accurately this morning came from an organization that answers to no American and reports to no podium, and that is who holds the decision in this conflict. It has always been who holds the decision, and the Versailles signing ceremony was a very expensive way to demonstrate it one more time. Index read.